In a digital world overflowing with filters, edits, and carefully curated perfection, it's rare to stumble upon a moment that feels genuinely human. That's exactly why Casey Nijota's recent photo struck such a powerful chord with fans. Known for her time on Storage Wars, Casey shared a simple, unpolished snapshot that wasn't about glamour or performance, but about presence. There was no dramatic pose, no artificial lighting, and no attempt to fit into an unrealistic standard. Instead, the image quietly said, "This is me." And that honesty landed in a big way. People didn't connect with the photo because it was flashy. They connected because it felt familiar and real. In an era where public figures often feel distant or untouchable, Casey's post closed that gap. It reminded viewers that authenticity still matters and that confidence doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes just showing up as yourself is more than enough. Casey Nijota beyond the screen. For years, audiences have known Casey Nijota as one half of a memorable duo on Storage Wars, bringing humor, warmth, and sharp instincts to every episode. But television only ever shows one slice of a person, often shaped by editing and expectations. Off-screen, Casey has steadily built a reputation for being grounded and approachable, someone who doesn't pretend to be flawless. That's why her recent photo felt so aligned with who fans believe she truly is. It wasn't a sudden rebrand or a dramatic statement. It was a continuation of her long-standing attitude toward life. Casey has never been about fitting neatly into a mold, and that's part of what makes her relatable. She represents a kind of confidence rooted in self-acceptance rather than approval. By sharing a moment that felt personal and unfiltered, she showed that the person viewers see on TV isn't a character, but an extension of her real self. Why this photo stood out, what made this particular image resonate, wasn't just its simplicity, but its timing. Social media often rewards extremes, whether that's perfection or controversy, leaving little room for quiet honesty. Casey's photo cut through that noise by doing neither. She appeared comfortable, casual, and unapologetically herself, which made the image feel refreshing rather than performative. There was no message spelled out in bold letters, yet the meaning was clear. This wasn't about proving anything or chasing validation, it was about normalizing reality. Viewers saw someone who looked like a real person living a real life, and that felt comforting. In a subtle way, the photo challenged the idea that public figures owe perfection to their audience. Instead, it suggested that authenticity can be enough and maybe even more impactful. That's why it lingered in people's minds long after they scrolled past it. Confidence without conditions. One of the strongest messages behind Casey's post was that confidence doesn't need conditions attached to it. It doesn't depend on meeting certain standards, wearing the right clothes, or presenting a polished version of yourself. Her confidence came across as calm and settled, the kind that grows from self-acceptance rather than comparison. That's a powerful contrast to the pressure many people feel online, where worth can seem tied to likes, comments, and approval. Casey's presence in the photo suggested that confidence can be quiet and still meaningful. It reminded viewers that feeling good about yourself isn't about reaching a finish line, but about making peace with where you are. That kind of confidence is relatable because it feels attainable. You don't have to change who you are to access it. You just have to stop apologizing for being yourself. The internet's positive response, the reaction from fans, was immediate and overwhelmingly supportive, which in itself felt like a small victory. Comment sections aren't always known for kindness, yet this one filled up with messages of appreciation and encouragement. People thanked Casey for being real, for showing up without pretense, and for reminding them that authenticity still has a place online. Many shared how refreshing it was to see a public figure embrace reality instead of hiding behind edits. That kind of response doesn't happen by accident. It happens when people feel seen. Casey's photo gave viewers permission to feel okay as they are, and they responded with gratitude. The positivity created a ripple effect, turning a single post into a broader conversation about self-acceptance. It showed that when someone leads with honesty, others are often ready to meet them there. Representation that feels human. Representation isn't just about visibility, it's about relatability. Casey's moment resonated because it reflected lives that don't revolve around perfection. She didn't present herself as an unreachable ideal, but as someone who looks like a neighbor, a friend, or a family member. That kind of representation matters, especially in entertainment spaces that often promote narrow definitions of beauty and success. By simply being herself, Casey offered an alternative narrative, one where worth isn't measured by appearance or comparison. This wasn't about rejecting beauty, but expanding it to include reality. When people see someone they admire embracing who they are, it can quietly shift how they view themselves. That's the power of representation done right. It doesn't lecture or preach, it just exists, and in doing so, it makes space for others to exist comfortably, too. Staying grounded in the spotlight. Being in the public eye for years can easily create pressure to maintain an image, yet Casey has consistently resisted that pull. Her recent photo felt like another example of her staying grounded despite visibility. Fame didn't push her to hide or reshape herself. If anything, it gave her a platform to show that staying true to yourself is possible. That grounded energy is part of why fans trust her. She doesn't come across as someone performing a role, but as someone living her life openly in a culture that often rewards constant reinvention. There's something reassuring about consistency rooted in authenticity. Casey's approach suggests that you don't have to lose yourself to stay relevant. Sometimes relevance comes from being real, especially when others are craving honesty more than spectacle. A broader message about self-worth. At its core, Casey's photo carried a message that extended far beyond her own experience. It quietly challenged the idea that self-worth should be tied to trends, expectations, or external validation. Instead, it suggested that feeling comfortable in your own skin is enough. That message resonated because it addressed a shared struggle many people face, often silently. Seeing someone in the public eye model that kind of acceptance can be grounding. It reframes confidence as something internal rather than something earned. The photo didn't demand attention, it invited reflection. It asked viewers to consider how much energy they spend trying to meet standards that don't truly serve them. In that way, the image became less about Casey alone and more about a collective reminder that authenticity is not a weakness, but a strength. Why moments like this matter? Moments like Casey Najota's recent post matter because they gently shift the tone of online spaces. They remind us that not everything needs to be perfected or optimized to be meaningful. Sometimes honesty is the most impactful thing you can share. Her photo didn't go viral because it shocked people, but because it felt sincere. In a fast-moving digital landscape, sincerity stands out. It slows people down, even if just for a moment, and encourages connection rather than comparison. Casey's willingness to show up as herself reinforced the idea that confidence and authenticity can coexist beautifully. It also showed that audiences are ready for more of this kind of content, more humanity and less performance. If anything, her post proved that being real is still powerful, still relevant, and still deeply appreciated.